Alrighty, my name's Andrew Jones, and here's my 2020 experience. 2020 was a very rough year for a lot of people, but for me, I think the hardest part was knowing that my entire family had COVID at one point, which was quite the shock for me. It happened when I decided to move to Jonesboro for school again. Um, yeah, that was very rough because I wasn't there with them to, be with my family, but I'm thankful that I wasn't there because I'm a very high risk individual. But at the same time, it was kind of disheartening to hear that my entire family had got it. But thankfully, nobody had any lasting effects. I mean, during the time, my dad got hospitalized for it, but other than that, everybody else had a pretty mild case of it. I think all of them lost their sense of smell and taste, but they all have it now, so that's good. Um, Another part of 2020 that was really rough for me was definitely the quarantine and isolation part because I'm a very social individual, and so um, having to be isolated from everybody I knew, and we have social media, but that only plays a small part in my life. I mean, I'm a very social individual, so not being able to have that face to face interaction was difficult for me, but I guess it went okay. It worked out for me, I guess. But at the same time, having to deal with that on top of everything else that was happening in the world, it was just driving me insane because up to that point where COVID first hit, I was out with friends almost every day doing something. I was never inside by myself. I was always out doing something, whether it be at work goofing off with friends or, out on the town having fun. But once COVID hit, I had to put all that to rest. Just do what was best for my health, which was keeping myself isolated from everyone else. 2020 was like I said, a crazy year. Um, we had the movements, which were quite eye-opening for some people, and for me especially because me being a black male, those movements they hit home for me. I mean, it's like every day we were dealing with it, trying to make change for us, and you see day by day, or it's always an article being posted where another black teen or a black individual is killed due to an interaction with the police or just somebody who had ill intentions toward an African American. And those, having to sit there and just constantly reflect on that, it drives you crazy. Because for me, it made me feel like an inadequate person. It made me feel like less of a person because you constantly saw these events taking place, but you had the movements and everything, but people were still getting killed during this time, and it made me feel like nobody really cares about us the way we would want them to. Like we're on our own, and it was just kind of disheartening, and that on top of being isolated from everybody kind of broke me down. I know I had a few breakdowns over the summer due to just everything that was happening. It was a rough year for me. I've never really had a breakdown or like I'm not the type of person to sit there and just put the emotions out and just get emotional and everything. But 2020 brought all that out for me um, because I use social interaction to push all that down and just keep it bottled away so I don't have to deal with it. But it was little to no social interaction, so I had to deal with it in some way. So I mean, I appreciate having to experience that and go through it because it made me grow as a person. But at the same time, I would have much preferred not to have to deal with it. Another part was definitely having to do school on top of everything. Um, School was not a. It didn't feel as big of a priority as everything else did in 2020. Of course, you got to strive for your best to get the best grades and everything, but I I wanted to make sure I was okay more than anything. I put my mental health, my physical health, and my family's health over everything else, and it affected a class or two. I mean, I could have done better, I'll admit. But at the same time, my priority was, making sure I was fine, my family was fine, and close friends of mine were fine because it's a rough year. We're all experiencing something new to us, something that we've never dealt with, something that was quite possibly felt impossible to deal with, but you had to deal with it at some point. So I'd rather, be mentally healthy, physically healthy, and all around good rather than, stress myself out over homework or something that at the moment didn't feel as important to me as everything else did. So school was kind of put on the back burner, but, still there because you got to make the grades still. But I definitely didn't put as much emphasis on my schoolwork as I should have, as much as everything else. We tried band this in 2020, and that didn't go so well because early in the year, when I was part of concert band for the spring semester of 2020, we tried to do a concert, and that's when COVID first hit, and everybody was sent home, so we had no band concert. So it felt like that, semester of band was wasted for me. That whole semester of school was wasted for me because I didn't get to enjoy it the way I wanted to. And then that fall semester, we tried marching band, and we got to go to the games, a few games before everything got canceled again. But I enjoyed them because I was out there doing something I love to do, which is play my instrument and be around a bunch of friends and stuff. But at the same time, my favorite aspect, which was the marching, was cut off. And we're outside putting together stuff, you know, working hard as we could to make things, as normal as we could make them, as good as we could make them, but at the same time, knowing that we wouldn't be able to actually do what we wanted to do. And it just kind of felt like a waste of time for some people. I know for me personally, um, I'm outside putting all this work in, but I'm not getting to do what I love, like the full experience. And I just kind of feel like I was wasting my time a little bit. But I stuck with it because it is band, and I'm a very passionate person about music and band in general. So like I stuck with it, but at the same time, it was just kind of, I don't know. It was kind of, it felt like a waste of time for me. But yeah, another thing that made 2020 so difficult for me was like, well, for me, I said the social interaction already, but being isolated from so many people at once, it felt like my world like came to a stop, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to this. Like their world felt like it just closed off and stopped. Like I lost my job during 2020. I lost a bunch of friends. I lost family members. Well, when I say I lost friends, I wasn't in touch with them. But when I say I lost family members, I actually lost a few to COVID, which they weren't my closest family members, but I did have interactions with them, so I did know them, and so it still hurt a little, but not as much as it would have if it was like a close family member, like immediate family. But it still hurt, and seeing my mom, who was really close with these members, deal with it was very rough. And that I think experiencing my mom's pain or seeing it made it hurt more for me than the actual loss of the person. But I'm just glad everybody that made it, and I didn't lose any more than what I already did. But dealing with all this loss of it was just, it felt like I was losing everything at one point. Because first we got kicked out of school basically, so I felt like I lost precious time with people I met in college. Then I got home, and everything's on lockdown, and we got quarantine and stuff. So I felt like I lost friends from home because I couldn't see them, and not seeing them made some people like not reach out and communicate with the people anymore. So I feel like I lost communication with people, which hurt as well. And then there was the, you know, we progressed, and I feel like I was just losing more people because, you know, we weren't as close. Like a lot of people I dealt with were social, like face to face people, and like over phone we just didn't interact. So that hurt a lot, and felt like I was just losing everything. And just the year progresses, just more and more happened, which was just a whole lot. And I think the craziest thing that I experienced during 2020 was that toilet paper craze when it first hit. I never understood that one. I don't know why everybody rushed for the toilet paper, but they did. I personally thought it was pretty funny, but I didn't understand it because there was so many things you could have worried about more than toilet paper. But everybody was like, "I need toilet paper," so I just watched news and social media videos of that happening, and I was just blown away by people's, I don't know, their inability to think. I never understood that part. That was the wildest part for me. Yeah, that was just, it was something so bizarre and just unnecessary in my opinion, because there was people fighting over toilet paper, people harming others. Like, it was just so much unnecessary hostility during that time period, and it just didn't make sense to me. Like, why are you so hostile to people who are trying to make do, I guess, who's trying to survive just like you? I don't understand it. Like, we're all going through a pandemic. Let's struggle together rather than, turning on each other. But unfortunately, I guess some people don't, not everybody thinks the same. So there was definitely that hostility element still. But I mean, thankfully it died out. I don't think, I don't want to ever experience another toilet paper craze. I don't want to experience a pandemic anymore. We're still going through it. Hopefully that's ending soon. But that was just, 2020 was a terrible year. Definitely a stain on my life so far. If I could, I'd make that year just disappear. That was a horrible, horrible year. Then you had the election on top of everything, and people were turning on each other. You had the riots. It was just, during 2020 brought up, in my opinion, the worst in humanity. It was just everyone, like, once everything hit the fan, everybody was like, it's either me or nobody else. Everybody was on their own, and so, like, during a time of struggle, I don't understand why people wouldn't come together. It was a lot of, you know, me versus somebody else. It was never just, let's come together, let's get through this. It was always, I'm doing what's best for me, forget the rest of y'all. And that right there is why so much of it was so bad, in my opinion. Which I feel like a lot of it could have been much better. And I don't know. I feel like if we just worked together more, we would have been fine. Like, the mask thing, the anti-maskers versus the people that supported the mask was ridiculous. It was just a whole lot of insanity in one year. I'm just glad we ain't got to deal with it no more. But yeah, that's my interview for you. Thank you.